Hyderabad, India. I basically come from a research center which has a broad research study with different research groups. My primary focus is into software product development with usability as a focus. So the current talk which I'm going to give today is on usability evaluation for virtual reality products in industry. It's a systematic literature review. We have followed the Kitchen-M-based process and have conducted SLR on this subject. To give you a brief background on before I get there, how many of you have experienced virtual reality? How do you think virtual reality is? Is it nice? Different thoughts. So it's actually there's a hype in current market. It's not that way extreme like we see mobile phones now. It's like 2000s of mobile phones. So the penetration is not into reality, but we do have certain applications for particular focus group industries who primarily depend on these VR-based applications to run their business. So this is a hype cycle. There's a researcher called Lisa Rost who has done a study of all hype cycles to see where the virtual reality is actually standing, and you could see that it has almost reached a slope of enlightenment. It means that it's gonna hit into real world penetration. But the challenge is with the hardware. That was the conclusion made by that author. So where the study is actually motivated from a previous study of ours. So we have started this virtual reality journey in 2017 to understand how software developers are converting into a VR-based developers and what type of practices are trying to inculcate while building VR-based products. So we wanted to understand what exactly is happening in virtual reality world in terms of software engineering perspective. So there was a author, Olas Eder. Steam has conducted a literature survey to see what SE-based processes and methods are being practiced by software developers through a SLR, and they have come up with a broad idea on how a software engineering-based roles have been converted into a VR-based roles and what challenges they are facing. If you look at the slide, you have different roles in traditional software development versus virtual reality-based product development, and now they have amalgamated their both skills and are now in a confused state whether to implement a process A or process B to get output B or output A. So that's the current trend which is happening in real world, which is unstructured, by the way, across the world in all VR products. So if you look at the industries which are focused with VR products, they are into tourism simulation. There's a good paper from 1970s where we have a first simulation product from virtual reality, and predominantly all the products we see now in virtual reality are into simulation based. They're very less in terms of health, entertainment, banking and finance, but we see almost everything into training based VR apps. So we started this journey by conducting an empirical study before this current paper that was published in one of the previous conferences. We wanted to understand what exactly the developers are doing right now while building VR products. So we met different developers, product managers, engineers, the QA team, the DevOps team, the release team, and the maintenance team who build VR products across the globe. And we did focus interviews, a survey, and also online-based forum study to see what exactly their pain points were. So this slide is about a broad, high-level description on where the problems are. So the problems are predominantly in requirement analysis, usability, security, and accessibility. To understand in depth, in detail on what the problem is. So to define usability, as we we all know, there's a standard definition from ISO which talks about the extent at which you can build a product so that a particular set of users can use it. All VR-based products are personalized in nature until now. Unlike your traditional mobile or a desktop-based or Windows-based or web-based application, you have a personalized environment where a participant is placed and is being experienced on the 360 review of an object or ecosystem where the objects are virtual in nature. So usability plays a crucial role, and we wanted to understand what usability evaluation methods are being practiced by these developers who are building these products for the enterprise industry. So we formulated our research questions by the way I was talking about the usability evaluation method, what methods they're following and what they're actually measuring, what metrics they follow, and is there any trend in the usage of this usability evaluation method, and also is there any unique thing about virtual reality products in industry. So these were our questions which we thought about, were expecting something out of the SLR which we have conducted. So we followed a standard Kitchenham based SE-based process systematic literature review, where we have to divide a population first to understand what are our target audience. We were focused on virtual reality products only. Intervention, we wanted to look at only the usability evaluation methods, nothing else, no other testing scenarios or evaluation scenarios. Our comparison strategy was to compare the usability evaluation methods across these papers, and our outcome is to understand, dissect in detail what these guys are actually doing. And our focus was only into academic papers and industry papers which are published based on respective libraries. So this was a search strategy. We have built a query string. We followed the same search strategy method to construct the string, and we have divided the string and built its synonyms. And we have restricted our publication here to 2000, so that we have gone through a lot of study in our previous paper, and we were able to generalize that 2000 was the year where we do see a lot of spike in VR papers. Since then, there were not many papers which are industry focused. And our sources were IEEE, ACM, Scopes and Science Direct. And with that search string, we had 84 papers. And by applying the exclusion and inclusion criteria, we were able to get about 36 papers. So we have extracted the papers, and we have conducted a multi-review mechanism to do the evaluation of these papers. Twice peer-to-peer evaluation, so that I review a paper first and give it to another researcher. He does a review. We do a triage and come up with consolidated observation. Another third and fourth reviewer, a researcher, will conduct a similar type of evaluation. They do a triage, come up with the observation, and we four of them together, we build the conclusion. That's how we answer the research questions. So if you look at the first question, what methods they actually focused on, we do see most of the papers were coming from simulation-based software. So they were focused. We have categorized them into four sections. One are widely used approaches, which are used across all the papers in almost all the time. Focused approaches for focused products. And there were group study approaches for a wider audience, where we are built for a targeted wider audience. And there are a few empirical methods followed by the testers to evaluate whether their usability evaluation was correct or not. So it's like a end-to-end based, a circular evaluation which people have been practicing. And there are pretty good approaches like haptic-based approaches for focus group, where people were reviewing physiometric and psychological based VR apps, where people were being treated in certain parts of Ireland and some of the European countries. We do see that they have come up with haptic-based controllers to capture muscular movements and pupil dilation, all those details. Coming to a second question we had, we were working on to identify what metrics the usability evaluation engineers are interested in. So we do see regular metrics which are spread across almost all the papers which we have reviewed, but there were a few unique metrics which are focused to medical based VR products like interpupillary distance to see to calculate the dizziness of a person or vision issues for a person, or if there is a kid who is being trained to understand the distance or scope of an object. In case of such medical applications, there are VR products which are being released and published and used by few hospitals, which use interpupillary distance and all these unique metrics like heart rate, skin temperature, spatial orientation, test focus metrics, where they capture these details and evaluate them in sequence and conclude if the patient or a person who is being placed in VR product is progressing well on. And there are a few novel metrics which we have seen: efficacy, interaction capacity, degree of dizziness and vertigo, which were mostly used for psychological treatments or by psychiatrists who use VR-based apps to treat their patients. The third question was to understand, is there any trend in all these papers which have been published from 2000 to till date? Is there any change or advancement in any particular method or metric? What we see that people have been shifting from one approach to another approach. There were medical-based applications, VR products which are published between 2000 to 2005. We see a similar trend of methods in this period, but with the advancement of the hardware, the level of capturing metrics, the level of conducting the evaluations have been matured. So that was the shift we have seen. And apart from that, there is a lot of automation in terms of conducting the evaluation. Third-party gadgets or haptic-based gadgets or exoskeletons were actually used to train the person who is being set up in a VR system and capture the data. And it's not that matured in terms of automation, but there is a significant rise what we have seen in VR products so far. The fourth question we had was with respect to what's the unique criteria in the evaluation setup specific to industrial products. What we have seen there is they have a product liability because they have to compete in a market. They end up releasing a beta 1, beta 2 particular product with set of XYZ features, and they end up creating issues and the product comes back and they in turn change, update their product and then release it. So there is a challenge in terms of the slightest change being proposed by end users and the entire product need to be rechanged. So it's very costly for a VR product to enhance or costly for VR product to go through that process. So there's a lot of liability there. And the other thing we have seen uniquely with respect to the content. If you look at the VR gadgets from 2000 to till date, which is the Oculus, or you have pretty more gadgets which are released this year, there are inbuilt engines which were VR-based development engines which were unique to a particular device being used in the past. But now you have new engines like Unity, Unreal, which are being diversely used by any type of VR headset. So there's a matured VR content which is coming up into market, but it's still under open for adoption, open for widespread adoption. The other challenge people have been facing is with product versioning. Let's say there was a version A released and if it did fail, and creating a version 2 or making copies of that version, distributing them across the group, across the world has become very difficult. So there is a broad research which needs to be done to help the VR developers to create versioning in VR code base. And the last one, what we found was with respect to the effort. The VR products which are being built by these developers are not practically implementing the effort estimation methods which we already have in SC. Potentially there need to be another empirical study which we may focus on seeing how effort estimation methods can help VR developers to come up with better products. So there's a detailed chart on all the mappings with respect to the method, metrics and the empirical study being done by each and every product, grouped by the industry type in the paper in detail. You can go through the table and you can map it with your work in future. As part of our future plan, we would like to continue to invest our time in understanding how requirements, methods of capturing requirements in traditional SC to VR. We are working on elicitation methods. The research group who is working on requirement specification language, which is already exists for VR products, but it's not that efficient enough to support new engines. There's another research group is working on usability challenges to formulate new metrics based on new products which we will build. And I'm focused on working on VR product development process which is focused to usability to see if we can come up with an end-to-end VR product development process which can aid product development teams to adopt and see if they can build good products. That's the end of the presentation. If you have any questions.
Sure.
In the previous slide before the future direction, the observation for the previous one. Yes, the haptic-based methods. Can you give me some examples, maybe?
We use one haptic device. There's a CogScience lab in our institute which use haptic device. It's a device which can capture human gestures like muscle strength or muscular movements, eye pupil movements or facial muscle movements. You need to wear those gadgets so that the device can capture those readings. There are papers, if you look at the paper related to this, the haptic devices are used for veterans to come out of the trauma which they faced in the war. They are being placed in a VR system where the environment was built, a non-war based environment was built, and they'll be exposed to a situation where they get out of a trauma and they measure the impact by capturing the muscular movements or their facial movements and all that. So the participant will be given or he will be added, apart from the VR headset, they will be wearing the other haptic devices and they'll be made to do a particular task. Based on the outcome of those tasks, they gauge the participant's performance and see if they can enhance his performance.
So it's more biological feedback rather than the cognitive.
Yeah, that's true.
Question? Choosing the typical evaluation method for particular product is necessary. Can you use guideline or considerations to identify the typical method?
Yeah. So we previously worked on a similar concepts for mobile usability. So this SLR was only focused for understanding what people are doing in industry, but we can extend this SLR to formulate guidelines because we have already done a year worth empirical study to see what people are actually doing in real world. So we have captured few guidelines on it's like best practices to build VR products, and we have also captured what people have been doing in industry, especially at publishing. So we can compile them and come up with usability guide, because we currently don't have any guide. So that's part of our future work, guideline-based evaluation framework. Like if you publish a VR product into a framework and pass 10, 12 guidelines, it should be able to rate whether it has met those guidelines or not. So we are heading towards that direction. That's part of our research.
Question?